welcome once again to this exciting episode of the Hotseat. My name is Thomas Mangwiro, and today I'm joined by two gentlemen, one from UZ Wolves and the other from the Harare Volleyball Association. This is the Hotseat, your program that brings you nothing but volleyball, and today I'm joined by Jonathan Gava, the Secretary General of UZ Wolves, and also the women's coach, and also the Vice Chairperson of Harare Volleyball Association, responsible for technical and development, that is Donald Chademana. Welcome to the program, folks.
Thank you very much, Vicky.
And thank you for gracing this occasion, and also welcome to you, Donald.
Thank you, Mr. Mangwiro.
And today we want to talk mostly about contract. There's a ton issue about contracts in our volleyball. Maybe before we go into it, you said to us, you are the coach. What are the expectations from the team this season?
Well, this season we are rebuilding the ladies team, and probably I'll just speak of the men's team again.
Yes.
We want to also rebuild the team, and we want to restart. So we're mainly looking at starting the students again this year, so maybe for the next 2 years, rebuilding the team so that we can then move forward from there.
Any departures and incomings from on the side of the players?
We may lose some players, maybe 4 or 5 on the lady side, and we may gain 2 coming from subordinates, Blessing and Kim. Yeah, from the lady side. From the men's side, we will likely lose Wara and Prince, the setter. Basically, I think those 2.
And Donald, we saw the Harare Volleyball Association holding its annual general meeting last week, and it was an elective congress. Can you fill us in?
All right. I may say we had our AGM, and it went on, I would say successfully, I may say, but of course most of the candidates were unopposed. So we now have Mr. Clemens Muzira as the first vice chairperson responsible for marketing and competitions, and then myself elected as well vice chairperson technical and development, and then we did not have anyone nominated for the gender and minority post. So currently Harare Volleyball Association is looking to co-opt some members. Specifically, we have to fill in Mr. Muzira's post, as well as also the gender and minority post.
If I may ask, why is it that people are shunning positions in the Harare Volleyball Association, considering that you are running at 50%, only 4 out of 8 members? Why?
Well, I think it could boil down to several reasons. I would like to just point out on where we are coming from as clubs. It's something that we have been meaning to improve on, because if you look at most of the clubs, they are running on 2 or 3 member committees. So if a club has a skeleton staff in terms of administration, I can tell you that it would be too much to ask as well to then have the association running probably at full capacity. So it's something that we mean to actually do, and it has to start from strengthening our club structure in terms of numbers, and then hopefully it will then cascade to Harare Volleyball Association.
Coming to you, Gav, why do you think people are shunning posts in the Harare Volleyball Association, considering that you have been a councillor for a very long time?
Yeah, there are a lot of reasons, like he alluded to, but mainly I think it goes to financial issues. Volleyball is expensive.
Yes.
So you really need to have money to be in those positions because it's expensive. It takes out money from your pocket. So it's not even HVA alone, even 8 clubs. So that's why you find people having dual posts and so forth. Because really, taking those posts, they require you using your own pocket. So to me, it's mainly to do, you'll be like funding the association or funding the club when you are in that position. So
So the problem is that you have failed to operate the sport code as a business for it to attract revenue.
Exactly. I would put it like that. If you put it like that, I think, yeah, I would agree with you to an extent. You think, okay, we are the executive, so maybe it's our failure. I would agree with you to an extent.
So what's the way forward?
Well, okay, I'll tell you this. If I'm at club level, I'm actually looking to see things happening at a national level, so that I then have the aim to say, this is where I'm aiming at. So I can also tell you that, yes, mainly financial issues. And
Yes.
probably financial issues are probably the reason why our national teams are not working. So let's just say, for example, if we're very active at a national level, what does it mean for a club? It means a club, as a coach is preparing their team technically, they are aiming for going national. It also then means, as a club administrator, I'm also aiming that I also want to go national. But do I want to go national, especially with less activities, number one? Number two, do I also want to use my own resources in terms of going to a national post and then having to use my resources to commute between Bulawayo, Victoria Falls, Harare? So you see, there are a lot of things in play. I can tell you that comparing our team sport to the individual sports, the triathlon, cycling, you'd notice that those other sporting disciplines are probably doing well because also they are self-funded, but they don't have much responsibility in terms of numbers.
Have you ever engaged in the Mother Association, that is the Zimbabwe Volleyball Association, and what is their view?
Well, it's not really about engaging the Mother Association. I'll tell you, as a sport, we are currently running as semi-professionals. And where we are is exactly where we should be in terms of being semi-professionals. If we then want to move to being professional, there are a lot of things that need to be considered. Administration, technical, funding, partnerships, not sponsorships, because also that's the other thing. If you want to actually have sustainable partnerships, we need to do away with this concept of sponsorships and start talking about partnerships. So there are a lot of things that we really need to work on if we want to shift from semi-professional to professional.
So, folks,
Yes.
is it that we have got very few people without money, or we have got incompetent people in the province?
I wouldn't say incompetent people, because for me, I'll give you an example. I've had people say, run for this post, run for this post, but I always tell them, I simply don't have the time. I'm competent, but I don't have the time, because time and resources, financial, these two, go hand in hand. So, I believe we have competent people, but they are not willing to spend time running volleyball, because it doesn't bring anything on the table. It doesn't. It's a waste of your resources. So you might be competent, but you simply don't have the time.
So who do you want to build it for you?
Well, that's a very good question. Yeah, we should build volleyball on our own. It should be upon us to do it. But I believe, for me personally, I believe building my club, and my role is building my club and creating national team players so that others can take them from there. And if you look at my players, we've created a lot of national team players in the last 10 years, and this is our main goal at our club, to create those players so that others can take them from there onwards.
Well, this is the Hotseat, and this was the first part of this episode. My name is Thomas Mangwiro, and we are going away for a few minutes. Stay tuned. Welcome to the second part of this episode of the Hotseat. My name is Thomas Mangwiro, and this is a production brought to you by MNL, and also partnered by Gemcode. And today I'm joined by two gentlemen, that is Jonathan Gava and Donald kuziva kwashe Chademana talking to us about volleyball. Gava, let's talk about contracts. Is there a transfer market in Zimbabwe? Player transfer market in Zimbabwe?
Maybe you can explain what you mean by player transfer market?
Is there a place or is there any time we sell players to each other?
Yes.
In volleyball?
Yes. And, I think the thing is, all top clubs, they sell players. If you are at a club where you don't sell players, it means you are not at a top club. It's simple as that.
What are top clubs, if I may ask?
Okay, I don't want to give names. Of course, UZ is a top club, but look at your history. The team that has been winning medals, the team that has been at the top. So that becomes a top club. I'll give you, for example, the UZ ladies. It's the fact they hold the most national league titles. They hold the most medals or most podium finishes in Zone 6 than any other team. So, and they have more medals at collegiate games. So definitely that's a top team. When you look for supporting as well, the men's side, they have all the medals that you might think of. They've earned those medals. Look at NABA, they have those medals. Islanders, they have those medals. So for me, it is the history or the podium finishes that speaks volumes. So of all these top clubs, I tell you, they buy and sell players.
Donald, who regulates the player transfer market?
Currently, in terms of dates, I would say the National Association. However, I will also just point out that the National Association currently does not have a policy in terms of player transfer.
The National Association?
The National Association, yes. And then as Harare Volleyball Association, we obviously regulate the player movement in the province. So also you also have to look at it as we still have a lot to do in terms of regulations of player movements, player contracting as well. However, we have got somewhere to start in terms of that paperwork.
What are you regulating when your clubs do not have player contracts?
As I have been saying that.
What is the start point?
Okay, so the start point has to be first. We need to have a player database. So that's the start point. We need to have a player database which is registered under the provincial association. Also, we need to have players who are properly contracted. But remember, as I was saying, yes, we are doing what we can in terms of keeping volleyball afloat in the country, but in terms of administration, we are still lagging behind. As I was giving you, whether it's amateur, semi-pro, or professional. So we need to have player contracts, we need to have player development, players coming through the structures, but currently it's something that we are still working on.
Jonathan, is the association helpful in the market? Do you think there is enough legislation or statutes to guide the transfer of players in Zimbabwe?
Well, I cannot really say there is enough, but there is something. Just to correct what you were asking him, a contract, it does not start with HVA. The contract, if we look at the contract, the laws of the land govern what is a contract. Yes. This is why we say we have law of contracts. So first, a contract can be verbal, it can be written. That is admissible in court. So when we say we don't have contracts, I think it should be corrected.
So how is the association administering an industry where there are no contracts between parties?
I wouldn't say there are no contracts. If you go back and look, I would call a sportsman contract, I call it a two-tier contract. One, the moment that you wear my kit at UZ, you are in contract with UZ.
Yes.
The moment that you play in a match versus supporting versus NABA, you are in a contract with ZVA or HVA. Because HVA has allowed you to play. So the same contract, but first is between me and you at UZ. When you train at UZ, it means you have a contract with me at UZ. You being there at my training ground, it means you have a contract with me. I wouldn't allow any player to train with me without my contract. So you being there, it means you have agreed to the terms. So that's a contract. When you then agree to play in HVA, that's the second tier of the contract. You have now, so this creates a two-tier contract where you have a contract with UZ to play in HVA or ZVA. So basically you have a contract.
So what then determines the prices of players in the market?
I think there are a lot of things. For me, I would buy a player, I would pay for a player that I really want. At a price that the team is maybe, at a negotiated price maybe, but I won't pay. And we have done this before. It's a lot of times. It's only that we don't shout when we buy players. So we have done it before. Yeah.
Donald, there's been a quite number of disputes among clubs when it comes to player transfers. What are the main reasons of those disputes?
Well, I'll start with, I think, case in point, I think 2-3 years ago, I think there was Naba, a player, I will not mention names, but a player signed for 2, if not 3 clubs at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of them. And then, obviously, we've got teams that probably go under. Of course, we then treat those players as free agents. And then we also have players, I think we also had a time where record keeping was not as clear as it should be. We also had clubs just registering players. You then see a player appearing on this register, not really meaning that the player had signed, but I can just write Jonathan Gava on my team list, and he writes the same and you write the same. And so those are some of the reasons why we've had those issues in terms of player disputes.
In the last few days, we saw in the media there was a player who wanted to transfer from one club to another, and there was a price of 2,500 set on the player.
Mm-hmm.
And people were asking, is this realistic in volleyball these days?
Mm-hmm.
Can you charge a player 2,500? Jonathan.
Okay, thank you, baby. I can charge a player an amount that I want. Because at the end of the day, let's understand how this thing works. You come to my club, I train you, I'm using money, I'm using time. Someone's gonna let you go for free. If I need something, then I'll charge you. Remember, like I was saying to you, UZ is a big club. I'll give you an example. We are preparing for Libya trip.
Yes.
Each player from the budget, the cost for each player is about 3,500 for one player. So if you are talking about 2,500 for, I mean, it's peanuts to me. Because we are investing 3,500 for one player for one trip only. Then we are coming from Zone 6. Our budget was 35,000. Divide that by 40 people. That will give you, for one person, it's more than $1,000. So for a year, each player was more than 5,000 for 1 year. So asking $2,500.
But the argument is,
yeah,
the player gave you the services you needed.
How do you get that? How do you get that you have given me the services? Because what am I getting in return?
The services of the player.
How much are those services? What is the cost to those services?
Maybe you can break it down for us.
No, I'm just asking. So people have a tendency.
Today I'm doing the asking.
Okay. So people have a tendency to say 2,500 is a lot. How much is not a lot? Ask them how much is not a lot. But they can't give me a price.
But at first, we said our league, we don't have money, we are even operating at half the manpower we need. We are saying always volleyball. Then how do we come to, because the one player came here and said professionalism starts when the player wants to move. But is it fair?
All right, I'll probably ask you as well. I know you are asking the questions today, but I would just want to ask you, how much do you think it costs if I have a player for 5 years at a club? So basically, let's see where volleyball is and where we want to take it. If we do not start monetizing ourselves, who is then going to come to us and start monetizing it and start treating it as a business?
So who is the problem? The players? Because my players ndo kufamba achitaura kuti inini mari kunzi kudiyo ndiende uka aisikuita, then it's there in the public and the public is there to judge.
I'll tell you, the player is not the problem here. The club executives are the problem. Because I'll tell you, if I write today to Supporting Volleyball Club, I'm writing to the SG or the chairman. If I hear the player saying, hey, I was saying 2,500, who saying that to the player? Because I never spoke to the player. He's the club executive. And that is being malicious. And it's not good for relations. Personally, at UZ, we do not care. We give you the charge that we think is fair for us. Whether you like it or not, we don't care. Because we simply do what we think is right. So, when you look at it like the VC is saying there, it does cost a lot of money to produce a player. And how much are we getting returned from HVA, from ZVA, from all the rest? So we're getting nothing. Maybe, I don't know, I would say nothing. But how much are we putting in? So we are developing you to be someone. So you can't come back today and say, you guys, I'm not worth this much. You're simply saying you're not worth anything. But we are giving you a value, you know.
We will continue with that in our next segment. Viewers, this was the second part of this episode where I am talking to Jonathan Gava and Donald Chademana. This is the Hotseat and MNL production and also partnered by Gemcon. We are going away for a few moments. Stay tuned. Welcome to the third and final segment of this episode of the Hotseat, brought to you by MNL and Gemcon Consultants. My name is Thomas Mangwiro, and today I'm speaking to Jonathan Gava, the UZO's Secretary General, and also the Women's Coach, and also we have Donald Chademana, the Harare Volleyball Association Vice Chairperson responsible for technical and development. Before we go, Jonathan, we were talking about a player and the contract and the prize money imposed on the player. That player is given you services. Have you adequately remunerated that player during that service?
Yeah, probably adequately differs. For me, adequately means according to the contract that we have. So if it's according to the contract, and even way better than the contract, it means we have more than adequately. So I would say yes, more than adequately. We have always fulfilled our contracts.
And the contract it's still running?
Well, alright, I'm gonna answer.
Let's talk about DJ Wara.
Okay, that's fine. I wanted you to be specific.
Yes.
What's happening now is we have a request from Roa.
Yes.
So we are in the process, or maybe I'll say we have agreed on terms. They will pay what we requested, and I'm not going to divulge how much was agreed.
So 2,500 Zangovenya.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they are paying less or more. I'm saying we agreed on a figure.
Okay.
Yes, we agreed on a figure. So it's now up to them to pay if they need a player, and if they meet their end, then it's okay. We will release the player.
So we should conclusively say 2,500 in some cases, or even more, is fair in volleyball right now.
I will tell you. Maybe I'll tell you. This coming week, we actually have someone who are charging more than that. So I'm just telling you.
Have you ever paid such amounts before?
With contracts that have gone way above that amount. I'll tell you, we some years back, 2-3 years ago, I think 4 years ago,
yes,
we bought a player with a contract that is way more than what you're talking about. I think if I'm going to calculate offhand, that runs for about 1,500 per year times 4 years. That's over $6,000. So with a contract like that, it you say. So if you're talking about 2,500, for me it's nothing much.
So
you see,
Donald, in the HVA, or rather in Zimbabwe volleyball, we have got teams who are not at par. We have got teams in a basket they should not be in case. Is it what we can safely say?
Okay, it depends on what you are,
Because we
how
have
you want
clubs.
to classify clubs.
We have clubs who
We've
are
got clubs playing
developing
in the
players.
same division.
We have got players, rather teams developing players to certain figures, to certain values. And when those players want to move, we have other clubs crying and bringing the matters to the media. And you know, when social media is judging, do you as an association have a standard contract for volleyball players?
Well, as of now, I would say yes and no. The reason is, you see, with different teams in our division, you've got a varsity team or a college team which can offer a course or a degree program. We've got maybe the uniform forces where they can say they offer a contract which is like 20 or 30 years. So you'd find that we cannot really set and say this is a standard contract that would want
So
to say this
how do teams or clubs coexist in such a situation?
All right, so as I say, our system is not yet as perfect as we think it should be, but I can say we have got a player transfer regulation that we think is going to help us in terms of making sure that we regulate the player movement in the province. So we always want to say, for example, if we have a contract, if you have a contract with the club, at least the HVA should be preview of it, so that when we are sitting in terms of making sure that clubs deal amicably with their issues, we then know that we have contracts from both parties, we have got paperwork from both parties, so that whatever we do to sit, we are able to then actually help. But what I also just hasten to say is, I know usually when you feel squeezed out there, you then go to the media. We always want to encourage our clubs to just deal with that situation amicably without going to the media. Because I can tell you, where the player is coming from, they have put something, and where the player is going, they also need their services. But the important thing is we have to coexist as a league and build volleyball together.
Jonathan,
yes.
Where do you think you get the remedies, especially in this uneven playing field?
I wouldn't want to say it's uneven. I think the first thing is creating an environment that you want to create stars. So if you look at it, most of these clubs, okay, mainly it's used in the papers over this issue. Why? It's because we create the players. So other clubs don't have anything to sell. They don't create players. So there's nothing to say. Yeah, they don't create. So we are always...
So should you be disadvantaged because of that?
No, we shouldn't be disadvantaged.
And how do you think the association should protect you?
Well, the association, I think for now, they're doing well. But probably we just need to amend the transfer policy, which at times it really supports the player, but yeah, to an extent it supports the club, but as well it must really support both ends. It's like in movies. People, I mean, the most familiar faces are the movie stars, but they are not the ones with the most money. The directors of those movies have a lot of money. So we are looking at it as if the player is the one who should get more money. No, it's the club. This is why we are creating players, to get more money. This is how we should look at it. So if Manchester United does not have money, and Cristiano Ronaldo has more money than Manchester United, you understand? So that's not how it works. And one other thing that people forget is the the value, let's go back to the 2,500. The value is not simply derived from the player. If you look at Lionel Messi, for example, I know it's just a bit of soccer, his buyout clause was 1 billion, but he was not getting 1 billion. And the club was not putting 1 billion. Why? It's because when we get a player, we then see this player, okay, we are saying we're getting Wara, for example, we're saying Wara is a good player. We need to support Wara. So we are going to buy 4 more players to support Wara, right? Over the years, we said last year, let's get this player from Lawai to support Wara. Let's get this player from Naba to support Wara, right?
Yes.
So we are buying these players. So that cost we put into Wara because you are making us buy these players. So this is how that cost comes.
So there are other ancillary costs.
Exactly.
To a certain player.
Yes, because we are having to buy that cost. Because we are saying this guy is a good player. So how then are we going to win with this guy? So we need to buy so and so. That man, that cost should be,
And Donald, some players are saying professionalism is starting when they want to move away from a certain club. Have you looked into a situation where the players, where they go, where they are signed, are properly compensated for their services? Are they?
All right. I would say yes. It's actually a tricky situation because remember, when the player gets to the club, usually no one is there to really find out what they've agreed on. So it will also be unfair as well to then say when they are leaving, that's when the professionalism
Isn't it
is
that
starting.
you must be interested in that? Because I know for certain in soccer in Zimbabwe, whenever you are registering players, you also submit their contracts.
Yes, I was getting there. I also just wanted to start from where you had started off. To say, remember, it's a bit unfair to then say the clubs want to be professional when the player is leaving. Let's also remember that when the player came in, we did not hear anything through the media or anything. But also remember, as HVA, our mandate as well is to have a running players committee, which is also going to assist us. So the first vice chairperson who's responsible for marketing and competitions is responsible for player issues. Then we also have someone who's in legal and compliance, who's also there to also make sure that there is fairness in terms of how the contracts are running. So as an association, that's where we are, to kind of like regulate and make sure that both parties are also going have their interest.
But you know that there is a lot of manipulation in volleyball, player manipulation.
Explain.
People, the players are not getting paid. They are just being given food, and many a time you see players coming for a match, going around, but Chademana Bazi when a club is played and won.
But you look at it from this point. If you are employed,
Yes.
if you are not happy at your workplace, what do you resign? It's simple. So it's not like, and people must separate my man and the club's man. People must separate those two. If a club executive has money,
So
that is not the club's man.
solution we can proffer. If you are not happy at your workplace, resign.
How else should I put it across? Because at my workplace, I'm not getting that much. I'll give you an example. We had a player earning more than I earn at my workplace, and that player would still complain that she's not getting enough. I'm not resigning at my workplace, and so I tell you, it's simple as forward. If you think it's not enough, you resign.
If you see, is this the way to go? They own the clubs, they are manipulating players, and they are saying they should leave.
All right, tell me what. I know this is a touchy subject, but let's look at it from both points. We don't think that that's the solution, of course, because remember, as an association, our role is to commercialize this so that it's a win-win. Players comes in, they play, they are seen abroad, they get other opportunities, whether it's school, whether it's employment. Clubs as well, they develop players. Players come in, they play up to national team, they also get rewarded. So we are not really looking at a situation where we say, if you squeeze too hard, go. No. We are looking at a situation where we need it to be a win-win. That's why also we really need to be together as clubs, as an association, as well as the players.
I know there's a lot to talk about this subject, and Jonathan, last words.
Okay. You know what? I don't know. At times, like you were asking Donald about professionalism. The thing with players is they don't read. That's the thing. When they want to come to play, you tell them these are the conditions that we offer. These are our conditions. They don't want to listen. No matter how much you tell them, they say, just sign me, I want to play for you, sir. You give them the conditions, you give them the Wolves Charter, you give them the educate transfer policies and everything, they don't read. You post every document that is given for them, they don't read. The problem comes when they want to leave, when they think the grass is greener. That's where the problem comes. But when you were going through all these things, when we told you about the conditions, you said you're okay with it. So it can't be our problem that you didn't want to read or you write your decision. You are over 18 and you know you can contract. You are at the age of contract.
And Donald, I would have asked you to talk about the player contracts as a conclusion, but I will not do that. I will definitely bring you back to this show again, but maybe in short, you can tell us about the upcoming corporate challenge of the HVA.
Well, thank you so much. So as the Harare Volleyball Association, we're excited to introduce this concept. So this concept basically is for us to commercialize the sport. It's also for us to market, it's also to introduce the sport as well to brands. So basically we would want to partner with the Social Wellness Volleyball League, where we have got different corporates that are participating. And would also want to put a value on our players, a value on the clubs as well. So we are looking to have 6 teams, that's for each gender, participating. So what we are looking at is forming 6 teams, which are based on the corporates that are particularly there. I will not mention the corporates in particular, but I will say that currently we've got about 9 corporates participating in the SWVL. So we are also just hoping that we monetize this. They purchase players benefit, clubs benefit, but basically what we're looking at is now making sure that the sport is competitive. So we're looking at making select teams through those 6 teams that we're going to have. The best players in the province in 6 teams and the best coaches.
So it's like they will be bidding for the players.
Exactly, more like your fantasy league, but this time it means one particular player cannot play for 2 or 3 teams, but one player would then have to turn up for one team.
Okay, I will obviously hear more of that, and this leaves me to thank my guests, Jonathan Gava and Donald Chademana, for gracing this show. My name is Thomas Mangwiro, and this was the latest episode of the Hotseat, brought to you by MNL and GM Consultancy. We meet again in the next episode.